When I came here yesterday, I was filled with the atmosphere of international exchange, of cultural exchange, and I'm so grateful to be here together with Secretary General of the young Swiss Christian Democratic Party, so he's my younger version. Thank you. I am delighted, I am honored, and I'm humble before you to be able to speak before you. And I don't know, Mark, but I forgot to ask you this question, why I had the honor to be invited. I don't know whether you Googled me or whether, but anyway. I'm also humble because I know there's one other Swiss person in this room, so whatever I say, she can prove me right or wrong. And my third remark is that since yesterday, I've changed my speech completely, and it has become something new because of what I have lived through since we arrived yesterday. So thank you very much, and I am as curious as you may be to what I'm going to say. You know Switzerland, I guess, for its watches, for chocolate, for Roger Federer, you know. Switzerland's famous for that. Switzerland is famous for banks, for Geneva, for, place for United Nations. But Switzerland, and for me as Secretary General of a political party, Switzerland must be famous and is for its political system that is quite unique. And I'm glad to be able to have the opportunity today to explain that to you. I am the Secretary General of the Swiss Christian Democratic Party. This is the Swiss version of CDU in Germany, or of ÖVP. We are a member of European People's Party, and I know I have some, party colleagues also within the audience, because we are part of the same political family. In Switzerland, we have cornerstones of our political system that made Switzerland strong, famous, and also are an important part of our economic well-being and welfare. We have a system of direct democracy. We have a very strong federalistic system. We have a political militia system. And we have a multi-party system. So, when I was introduced to many former presidents of countries, as I said, I am very humble, because in Switzerland, we don't have one president elected by the people. We have 7 federal councillors, 7, and they are from 4 different political parties, and they speak 3 languages. We have 1 from the Italian-speaking part, we have 2 from the French-speaking part, and we have 4 from the German-speaking part. So imagine how they do govern our country. And each year they rotate the presidency. So a president is not elected, he is appointed sort of as as well as being Minister for Culture or Education, you are president for 1 year, and then you give that stool back to the next one. So that culture of cultural diplomacy is actually a culture that we know as a culture of consensus and a culture of diplomacy, because Switzerland was a country built by its own will, has never had any civil war, nor was Switzerland involved actively in a war. We have 4 ethnies, 4 languages, and they all claim for themselves to be as special as that no one else in the country would understand how they really are. And whenever I go to a meeting, you would enter the room, and the first thing you hear is chacun dans sa langue. So everyone in his language, which is nice. And sometimes you really don't understand, but it's not a matter of what kind of language the person speaks. But still, we are forced to find a consensus every time, also because of our democratic system. So what we have on the national level, the government, 7 people, 4 parties, 3 languages, is repeated in the same way in 26 cantons. Now, do you know how big Switzerland is? What do you think? How many times would Bavaria fit into Switzerland? What do you think? Not even once. We fit into Bavaria. So, but I know. Anyway, so you must think that even a canton is a region. It's the federalism that is the second cornerstone of our country. So when you think that you have a good idea, you first must run it through 26 other governments. And sometimes, who of you knows Asterix? All right, that village of Gauls in 50 before Christ. Sometimes Switzerland is compared to that little village, and it's not so wrong, I guess. Everybody wants something, and we do it a bit different. So the militia policy, multi-party system, one cornerstone. The militia political system is another one. So our members of parliament on the national, regional, and community level are not professional politicians. They have a job, and they do politics alongside that job. So they're nurse, they're attorney, they're farmers, whatever they are, and they would get together in the parliament to do the business as politicians 4 times a year. So, it's like a ski camp, only they don't go skiing, they do politics. And it sounds funny, but the importance of the militia system is that people never drop out of the real life, If you're a nurse, you do know what nurses need. And you represent these people in parliament. You represent teachers, you represent workers, you represent attorneys, and a lot of farmers. So, another cornerstone. Federalism, alongside of this of direct democracy and of militia political system, is another cornerstone of our political system. But first, direct democracy. This sounds so good. And we have seen lately that political leaders such as Macron in France or Sebastian Kurz in Austria, they're trying to copy a bit of our system. Direct democracy, explained in a nutshell, is that Swiss people, they are called to vote about 10 times a year, on referendums, on popular initiatives. 100,000 people, or if you have an idea, if you want to change the constitution, you need to find 100,000 signatures, and you can change the constitution. This is then submitted to a vote of the people. If you don't agree with a new law, you can, with 50,000 signatures, put in a referendum, and people are voting on that. Sometimes you vote on very important issues, and sometimes on less important issues, but we vote. It's something you do in Switzerland. The idea of direct democracy, of the referendum and the popular initiatives, was that you give power to other organizations outside of parliament to be able to do politics, okay? So it's like the civil society has also their word to say. Now imagine that. We have 4 governing parties, we have 8 parties in parliament, and we have the civil society, so everybody can do politics if they like. It's a good idea, and it also is one of the elements that made our country strong, and it's probably also one of the elements that prevented our country from falling apart, given that at the beginning, there were languages, ethnies, and different cultures to bring together. And then we have the federalism. And sometimes you think, well, Switzerland is so small and so bizarre, with mountains, and even mountains take a big part of that small country away. So it's a small country. Now, how come that we succeed in the Global Competitiveness Report, in the Competitiveness Report on happiness, on welfare, on well-being, on health system? What did we do? other than, you know, just have the best tennis player in the world at the moment. Swiss economic success is easy to quantify but difficult to explain, even to me, and I'm not an economist, and that's why I'm so humbled to be in front of, you know, like one of the best economists and scientists in the world, in that matter. We have a very small domestic market and some of the highest average incomes. We have, you know, nearly non-unemployment in Switzerland. And we have, however, the possibility that people, as I said, can influence our political system. So we maintain enviable economic conditions, we top global competitiveness rankings, and sometimes we must think, you know, what did we do and how could what we did or what we do have a positive effect on other countries around us. Federalism, very important. Sometimes important, sometimes annoying, because whenever you want to do something, you need to run it by a lot of other authorities and they never agree with you in the first place. And we have like the smallest regions, they're called Appenzell. It's like a village. It's like Playmobil village. And still, they have the same power than the Canton of Geneva, you know, when it comes to have a double majority for a vote in Parliament or with the people. As I said, we are a nation created by our own will and formed from several ethnic groups. We have not broken, we have grown. And federalism is one of the main reasons, I think, why. Or it is even, some would say, I found in a text, it's the only way to secure unity within the country. You know, the motto of Switzerland, when you enter the Parliament House, there is that very nice mosaic on top of it with the different cantons, and it's written omnes pro uno, unus pro omnibus. One for all and all for one. And that is the motto, the claim for Switzerland. Did you know that? She's Swiss. She didn't know that. Okay. So I can even teach Swiss people, you know. And it has shaped our modern federal state, founded in 1841, when the cantons joined together to form the Swiss Confederation and ceded some of their sovereignty to the federal government. And although a number of further functions have been transferred to the federal authorities since then, the cantons still enjoy a high degree of autonomy. And one of the chief characteristics of Swiss federalism is the cooperation between the individual constituent states and the federal authorities, and the good of the whole. The national fiscal equalization scheme, for example, is typical. The idea is that economically stronger cantons subsidize weaker ones. And, you might know that kind of system within Europe. You know. And still, it has to be an incentive for the economically weaker cantons to want to achieve, to do better, you know. And it's a bit of name-shame game, probably also, they would make fun of the weaker cantons, but still, never ever was that idea of solidarity put into question in Switzerland. It's helping, even though, they would mock each other and go like, oh, you just don't perform as well. But still, it was never, ever put in question. Swiss federalism is extremely competitive in nature still. And one of the outcomes was that regions would develop their own specialty. You might know the pharmaceutical industry in Basel, the private banking and the banking in Zurich, sometimes positive, sometimes a bit negative image, but still, you have Geneva as the place for the United Nations, the international part of Switzerland. And you have two very small valleys in the middle of nowhere in Switzerland, in Neuchâtel and Jura. And they're internationally worldwide known because this is the Watch Valley, And you have Serena Williams and these kind of people who would go there. So you have regionally strong performance in a sector or in one branch, supported by the others. And that also is what federalism does. So a lively competition between these microstates is another guarantee also of the economic success that we had. Yet, yesterday Gordon Brown was telling us that the greatest fear, or what also thrives people, is globalization. And the answer to globalization is nationalism. And he was kind enough to name some of the states, and he would leave out Switzerland kindly. But it's not that we don't see that coming. It's even, it has gone very far that the Populist Party in Switzerland, SVP, has become a role model for parties like AfD in Switzerland, But so the problem is that the Swiss people are normally very friendly and very kind, even if they're very nationalist. So for us, and the Christian Democratic Party is a center party. It's a center party. So nationalism also then has the effect of a stronger polarization, and the center parties, who are probably not as loud, who don't want to make a populist political marketing, they tend to lose voters. People reckon that we are nice, that you need to have that kind of political party, but then they still vote for the others, with the louder voices, with the louder colors, with the more aggressive rhetoric. And I believe this is a place where I can address that message to you, to fight nationalism, to fight populism. You don't need to go to the other extreme, but you need to look closely at the moderate political parties. They're probably the quieter ones. We do build bridges. Cultural diplomacy is what also has to happen within the parties. Within the parties. European Union was a Christian democratic idea. It was built on that. The League of Nations was that. So we should never, ever forget that. And even though I know that, unfortunately, like the media, they need to do their job. But unfortunately, even if they comment in a negative way on the populist parties, they still talk about them all the time. How many times need to be talked about President Trump again? We still do it. And the more you talk about them, the more you give them credit. So this is one of the take-home messages that I address to you, because I know that this is going to be spread in the right places. We need not to forget that building bridges is more important than to have the brightest political colors and voices. We need not to forget that, ever. Anyway, back to Switzerland. As I said, we have that multi-party system, but still the strongest party is the Nationalist Party, even in Switzerland. But it is being controlled by direct democracy, by the multi-party system, by federalism, and also by that culture of consensus, that even though they are a nationalist party, they still have, they're still in government. They're still in the governments of national and the regional level. So in a government of 7 people, you need to find a solution. So you can't just go on and say no all the time. You still need to find a solution. The competition between the cantons helps to ensure the economic growth and the solidarity. So we always have to balance out like competition and solidarity, but neither of these two concepts that might, on the first sight, not even go together, have ever been put into question. Quite the contrary. But what happens to federalism? Federalism is challenged, especially by a tendency of the international law that puts our specialty under pressure, but also a tendency towards centralization within the country, because we know that we cannot find 26 different solutions for migration policy. For example, we need to find one, and even Switzerland, even though we want to be a little bit like Asterix, we are not not with these problems. There are greater problems than what you think of. It could be a regional one. You can't do just like an Appenzell version of climate change policy. No, you need to find a global answer, and the implementation must be nationally. So, in a way, and probably that is the answer, even though the idea of the European Union as a confederation of states who are independently strong and still live a solidarity, a very strong one, is very much known to Swiss. Swiss would never want to go to European Union. They are, and that is probably the sad thing, because I would love to meet you again, in some international place, but we're part of European Parliament at least. But it's because they fear to lose their independence, and they fear to lose that federalism, And that is something that is so much in our roots, and as open as I do see myself, I understand deeply why Swiss people want to be the way they are. And, so we have, as I told you, these cornerstones of Swiss policy or of Switzerland. Direct democracy, the militia system, people work alongside to politics, federalism, and the multi-party system. And these four elements make Switzerland strong economically, also make Switzerland strong as in way of security. You would think that the 7 federal councillors, so the highest authority in Switzerland, would you believe me if I tell you that they go shopping in the same grocery store as me or my colleagues? That's what they do. Every Wednesday they have the meeting of the government where they discuss the most important issues. It starts at 8 o'clock. It finishes at 12:30. And the 7 councillors and the chancelier, they go out and have lunch together in a public restaurant. They go out, they chat. No security around them. No security. They go and they chat. Or say, did you like the spinach? I didn't like it. I don't know what they talk about, but still, to be able to live in a country where the president and the ministers can walk around freely is an achievement that we don't want to let go. And even though it looks a bit, as I said, something like Legoland, it is the way we want to preserve our country. What is the wrong thing to do is to go back and, create that image of Switzerland sort of like 100 years ago. So that nationalism, that nationalistic image of Switzerland, I strongly fight against with my Christian democratic values. And I think it's better to fight with them than with another rise of populism on the other political side. Direct democracy, second last point, is a good thing. To give the people the power to do politics. To have 100,000 signatures to be able to change a constitution is a good thing. But there is always le revers de la médaille, so the other side of the medal, because a vote can go wrong. The ban of minarets, was just a populistic vote, but frankly, I think such a suggestion would probably find a majority in most every country who wants to just, show people this is a sign, But moreover, but this had just a negative effect on the image of Switzerland. But a negative effect also on Switzerland's economy was the vote we had 3 years ago on mass immigration. Swiss people said yes to an initiative from the Nationalist Party, the right-wing party, so that Switzerland should be independent to control the immigration. Okay? An idea that would appeal to every nation state if you would ask the people, because they don't know better. What they didn't know, the people who voted yes to that initiative that you see, I didn't like it, was that we now violate the bilateral treaty with the European Union. And this combined with Brexit, such as we heard yesterday from Paul Brown, imagine that the situation for Switzerland is not as funny anymore, because violating the bilateral treaty means violating the free trade of person and goods, So now we have firms they locate their headquarters in Switzerland, such as Google or eBay. But you know, for them they say, if you go on like this with more regulations, with problems that we have now for our daily business, we might as well install our headquarters somewhere else. You know. So the longer that nationalistic politics is going on, and the direct democracy is actually used not for the original purpose that we had it, but for political reasons, that's how direct democracy actually then turns in the reverse of what it used to be or what it had to be. As I said, federalism is something that made us strong and we still believe in it, but it is been put under challenge by European Union, by international law, and also by ourselves, because sometimes you have this tendency to centralize instead of decentralizing. Still, Switzerland is still performing well in an economic way. I was very touched to hear yesterday that Switzerland, you know, is well known by a lot of your countries as to be a country who supported the autonomy of countries in Eastern Europe, who was there played an important role in diplomacy, even in cultural diplomacy, without even knowing that we did cultural diplomacy. But I think Switzerland has always provided the good services for the good things, even though, you know, we have also made our mistakes. And I think we must, I strongly believe that Switzerland must play again this role a lot stronger, providing the good services in diplomacy. And I have learned a lot now on cultural diplomacy. I think this is a very, very important point. And to finish off, you know, I of course brought you some chocolate, Mark. And you know, the slogan for this chocolate, it's Ovomaltine, also something very unique. You cannot explain to people what Ovomaltine is. It's with malt. That normally is used for beer, but we use it for chocolate, and it's very tasty. And the slogan in German the claim is, du kannst es nicht besser, aber länger. You won't be able to do it better, but longer, you know. So anyhow, this is for you, Mark, with a great, great thanks for your invitation. Thank you so much for listening to me, and whatever question, I am very open and happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your interesting speech. Now, if you have questions, we go ahead with the questions, please.
Normally we see that there is some characteristical picture of Swiss referendums, that the result is always very conservative, and you can't modernize anything. Can you have any examples about sustainable development issues like climate change or something else where the majority of the people have voted for?
Yeah. Just to get your question right, so what kind of referendums that we have voted like in favor of, or?
Yes, the characteristical picture of referendums have been, at least outside of Switzerland, that normally the majority of the people are voting in very conservative against that. Do you have any examples?
Yeah.
Like in climate change issues or such typical issues which are related to sustainable development?
We have now. Actually, and I'm glad that you've asked that question, because the normal thing to happen with referendums or popular initiatives from the right or left wing is that people are still like sort of reasonable again, like it's a good idea, but it's a bit extreme, you know. So we had a vote on. We asked the people, do you want to have 6 weeks of holidays? And the Swiss people said, like, that would be nice, but I don't think so, you know. They said no on that. We had a very important vote that was also internationally very much talked about on Swiss public broadcasting, you know. That was 2 weeks ago. And what the right-wing party wanted was, they asked the people, said, do you really want to pay taxes for that kind of program? But what they actually wanted to do, they wanted to take out of our constitution the mandate for public broadcast television and radio to inform in a neutral way, like so that their main task was to inform. And this is something what people would say no, you know. So they're in most of the times they're reasonable. We voted on c'est quoi la sortie de l'énergie atomique, you know, the nuclear, the end of nuclear power. But again, you had a very extreme initiative from the Greens. They wanted to sort of like, okay, let's stop it tomorrow. And then the Swiss people said, yeah, that's right, but you know, give us 20 years maybe. And so they said no to the brute, like the extreme initiative, but they said in the concept yes. And we voted 6 months ago on a new strategy énergétique, a new strategy for power and energy in Switzerland. So in a way, some of you people might know Doris Leuthard. She's our Minister for Environment. She's a very good-looking woman, and she's from our party, and she's a role model. And she's had also a crucial role in the Paris the Paris Treaty. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other question? Any other question? No. Yeah, please.
America. California.
Yes, that's my
Sorry.
You made that or you guessed?
No, I knew because we asked questions before.
I'm interested. Thank you, Secretary General. And representing the Christian Democratic Party, and to posit the word Christian, and also interested in the role of non-Christians or other religions, specifically Islam in Switzerland. And my question is more along the role of leadership spreading to the population. As it's reporting, the majority of Swiss are opposed to recognizing Islam as an official religion, and also the leader of your party is opposed to that as well. So if there's a correlation between that and also the spread of Islamophobia within Switzerland, and also that spreading to more of the EU.
You did your research. The challenge to answer your questions, especially for me to do it in English, because you know it's the vocabulary that I don't normally use in English. So, Christian Democratic Party, as I said, is on the European level. It's the largest group in European Parliament. So it's not like an idea that only just happened to be. As I said, in Germany it's a CDU. So this is our roots, our political roots and our cultural roots. The Christian Democratic Party or the political family. For us, it's not, we don't, like, the C in our party name is not a religion. So it is a political concept of consensus and our political roots. To answer your first question, it's not about a religion. Now, Islamophobia, or you know, how to find a way of living together as a society with new cultures, with also a new religion, is a task that we have to on. Like Islam will not be, I don't think, ever a national religion for Switzerland, but of course, you know, it's a religion that we have. But the question that you were asking is it going to be like an official church, such as we have the Catholic Church, the Christ Catholic Church, the Protestant Church? Because we say these are our roots, and Islam is not a root. It's not like Switzerland was not built on all these different religions, but on these churches. So they have their churches, they have their places to be, but they will not be recognized as a national sort of religion, you know, or a state religion. That's there you go. It's not going to be a state religion, because our state religions are the ones that our country was built on. We try to fight Islamophobia, and which sometimes is very close, you know, nationalism, Islamophobia, xenophobia, We try to fight against that by talking about what the real issues are, which are integration. So because we don't want parallel societies. That's also a reason why we don't want like private Islamic schools or private, because they belong to our society. So we don't want to live alongside one another, but together. That is what we have to talk about, I think, no matter the religion, but how can we become, or how can we remain that nation as a whole with different cultures and different ethnics. Actually, Switzerland should be a role model because we've always showed everyone that it is possible, even with different languages. So we should also try and show that it is possible with different religions.
Okay, thank you very much.
No
Thank you.
worries.
Any more question? Please.
No, they want a break. Oh, okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm Ria from Switzerland. I actually have a whole bunch of questions, but I think I will just
Yeah.
ask one.
We do it in the break, and then.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You said that your party is losing voters because of the right-wing party and like because they're loud and stuff. I don't know if you knew that the Swiss party system is one of the most polarized ones in Europe.
I know.
I don't know, this is my personal impression of your party, that you don't really have a strong image. And that's the thing why I'm not voting for your party, because
Not yet.
maybe, but
Where do you live?
I'm coming from Bettingen, and it's like one of the CVP cities. Like my hometown is made of your party. But what are you doing to like get a stronger image? Are you trying to build up one, or because in my opinion it's always a little bit fishy where you stand in the votes, and like I don't know, you can't rely on where you stand, so that's why I can't rely on vote.
Okay, I try to answer your question extremely quickly, so then we can, take the discussion some further, and I can win you as a voter for our party. I am one of the reasons you could vote for us, Anyway, 3 reasons. As I said, it is so easy. It's so easy to say, we have problems because we have too many foreigners. They should go out. And people go like to him, yeah, this is a good idea. Or the others would say, open up the gates, everybody come in. This is, the more ethnies, the more culture. This is extremely easy. And there we are. And they go like, look, we are not alone in this world. We cannot build walls. We need to open the gate. But the ones we welcome, we also ask them to do an effort for their integration, such as learn at least one national language, such as, And already now, I use more time to explain our position because we're social, liberal, conservative. See? So we put the human being in the center of our attention. Okay, market's good. Market is all right. But it should never ever have a negative impact on the individual. So solidarity, subsidiarity are cornerstones of our politics. We need more time, but I will always defend that kind of political rhetoric. I don't want to back down and use only 3 words to explain what we do. And I believe in Swiss people that there will be a time when they say, okay, they are crying out loud, and these ones are as well, but the solution is in the middle. So I need to be better, I know, and we need to get more money to get the word out,
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let me finish with that to say thank you to Beatrice. Thank you very much for your.
Thank you very much.